stream on the Vanquish channel, at least first one in the memorable past that I can recall. So anyway, we're going to do weekly live streams here, and we're broadcasting on both YouTube and Facebook. Facebook will get the first 30 minutes, and then the full hour long, which this is, scheduled or predicted to be, will be on the YouTube channel. So just the Vanquish Products YouTube channel, if you're interested. Let us know that everything is working, and we'll go from there. Trying to broadcast everything to one channel so we can track this well. But today, a little bit of background. We're going to go over kind of the history of the kits that Vanquish has put out. First one being the kind of halfway complete kit, which was the original Vanquish Ripper, and then to our most recent, which is an RTR, the Falcon RTR. So this was on the Phoenix portal, but I've got one example of every single kit, and yeah. So we're here at the Vanquish office, not just the high school photo booth. So it's our first setup here, and it'll be something that we work on over time as regular things happen in the office. So that's a little bit about that. Hopefully we can catch you guys up if you're not familiar with what's going on. But like I said, we're going to start with the history of our kits, kind of the evolution of how things went. This here, if you're not familiar, is a Vanquish Ripper. This is actually number 149. So it had, they were each serial numbered. They have some lasering on the chassis in the back. But these came as a partially complete kit. You didn't get everything with it. This was built for Axial Fest originally. So the Vanquish Ripper was an all-machined setup. The tube work was machined, the body panels were machined, and it went on top of an Axial SCX-10-2 chassis. Used an SCX-10-2 transmission or style transmission, 3-gear, and then it was made to work with the Vanquish F9 axles for the SCX-10-2 as well. It used a servo on axle setup, so a little bit different than out of the box SCX-10-2. This was a pretty in-depth kit to do because it was all machined, took a lot of hours, and it was expensive at the time. And then since they've stopped being manufactured, the prices on the collector side, of course, has gone up. So let's see. Hello, everybody. Thanks for checking in. We'll see how all of this goes. Again, our first one here, but I've obviously done some live streams in the past and just have to get everything tuned in. It's not just my regular one with a new backdrop. So, but the Ripper was special for that reason, but also very limited. Let's see. Shop tour. You know what? The cameras and stuff like that don't move very well. Although one of these days we might be able to put out a actual shop tour video. We're here in Sacramento, California. Our machine shop is here. This room is actually isolated enough that we're able to do a live stream without all of the machine noise. This is a new area in the warehouses here, so it was able to be isolated enough that we could actually do some video here again, which was nice. That's a good color combo on the Ripper. Yeah, that Ripper is a nice neutral, not too offensive. There's been all of the color combinations possible, I think, at this point. So there was some interesting ones in there for sure. I'm curious how many were really made. I guess I don't really remember the last number on them, but other than a couple of numbers that were like outliers, I think there was an 888 Ripper, but that wasn't in order. I think it's in the less than 200. But this was our first full production kit. This is the original VS4-10, the very first VS4-10, and this was the Origin Limited. So lots of times people just called it the Origin. The Origin is actually the body style, and the Origin body came in the regular full SUV style and then the half cab also, but this is the Origin Limited. So you kind of call it the limited kit versus like Pro or Ultra, which we'll show you next. But this kit was our first actual full scale chassis, had a stamped steel C-channel chassis, but it also paired with a ton of machined parts. This came with machined straight axles. This was the debut of the D44 axle, full width machined aluminum bumpers, and then it used a 3-gear style transmission. But all of the parts, you know, the axles, the suspension links, the bumpers, all of that, sliders as well were machined aluminum. Those were all machined in-house here, and then we had combined that with parts that we didn't make in-house, like the body and some of the plastics, the chassis rails, things like that, to make our first full complete kit. Let's see, shop tour will be next. Thanks to everyone for checking in again, and let's we'll try the whole comment thing here. Got a comment for a while. Someone else interested might get back into it, getting into the VS4-10. And there's a ton of options for the VS4-10 now, not just the, you know, fully machined versions like we had here. Now we got them all the way down to the RTR style, and we'll kind of go through that progression and see how things went. This was a big step, and it came in a really cool box. If you guys never saw it, all the machine parts were in some CNC cut foam, so when you open it up, it displayed really well. One of those things that went kind of an extra step in the packaging on the very first kit to try and, you know, really highlight what it was. But this was a fun one, drove really well, but it was just kind of an evolution. From there, we had another Origin Limited, but it was the black edition. Now, this is the photo truck, or the video truck, actually both photo and video. This one wasn't exactly how it came out because it does have the Falcon Wild Peak tires and impacts on it now, but this is exactly how it was in the product, video and photos. The Origin Black was the exact same as the standard Origin, except all the parts were black. Same, the bumpers, the axles, the sliders, everything the exact same. When we did the original Origin, we just did everything in the clear anodizing. Clear anodizing shows a little better that it is aluminum, helps to kind of depict that. And we did one color just for simplicity while we learned how to do the whole kit thing. The original Origin Limited, I believe, came out in late 2017, somewhere it's right around there, 2017, I think. Sound is bad. That is interesting. Let's see if I can. Let's try it. Maybe that will improve the sound. Let me know if that gets things better. You need to re-release those. These were an interesting kit, being that it had aluminum bumpers. They, you know, didn't slide across things quite as well, and they were a full width bumper, but they were a fun truck, and it was that first step. Worse. Interesting. Let's turn that off entirely. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. Too many, yeah, the hard surfaces in here, definitely something that we can play with a few options and just see. It's still muffled. Maybe that's just my beard. We'll see. Overmodulating. All right. Turn the gain down. We'll turn gain down a little. Let's see how we'll get the settings dialed in on this. But that was our Origin Black. Again, just a small difference from the original. Then we had the VS4-10 Pro, and this was a big step. The Pro, again, used the VS4-10 chassis, the same as the Origin, the very first one. But we did have a modified body style to the half cab version, which you can tell there. And this was the first time that you will have seen the offset F9 axle in the front versus the D44. And it was the first time that the VFD transmission was released. Previous, the Origin and the Origin Limited and the Origin Limited Black had the 3-gear transmissions in them. This one evidently has a light kit in it from before, but here we've got the VFD for the first time. The VFD in the VS4-10 Pro had machined gears throughout inside. It had an aluminum machined motor plate and the aluminum machined posts that separated there. So it was fully spec'd out with all the option parts that were available at the time, other than it had a 6.5% overdrive in the transfer case. It was also the first time that we had put overdrive into a vehicle. The packaging, when we went to the Pro version, kind of went to for the first time a more just consumer level, what you would expect packaging. Although it still included the machined axles front and rear, did replace the machined bumpers with plastic molded bumpers and sliders. Helped the performance quite a bit on these. The aluminum axles are still just super beefy. You're never going to break them. And overall, the VFD transmission for the first time moved that motor super far forward and really low. This was just an absolute amazing trail truck. Take it, do anything. It was my go-to truck. It still kind of is one of my go-to trucks. Yeah, the aluminum bearing plates came in there as well. That's a good point. The aluminum bearing plates were a new concept for the VFD transmission. The bearing plates hold all of the bearings in that transfer case area. There's 4 gears in that transfer case. And being able to replace the bearing plates allowed us to also move the bearing pockets slightly. So if we wanted to change the number of teeth and the positioning of the gears, like with the 21% overdrive set, then we could just change out those plates rather than having to change out molded plastic parts. And the aluminum bearing plates also offer as much support as possible. In the VS4-10 Pro, that's the first time also that we had these full molded chassis braces all the way around. And in the VS4-10 Pro, we had the fuel cell in the back, and the chassis braces completely fill the chassis rails from the rear bumper support up to where it mounts to the aluminum battery plates. And then in the front, from the bumper to where it bolts to the VFD. Super rigid, also makes, you don't see through the chassis at all, just makes everything as rigid as possible. It has to be one of the most rigid chassis setups in that respect. And there we go. But this one still available now, but the Pro is at the end of when you're going to see it. The ones that are available now are the last that you're probably going to see become available. So if you ever wanted a Pro and you see them available, it's your time to jump. This one was built for Jim, or Ripper Machinist, here at the shop, just with the blue paint. It's actually never been ran, even though it was built for him. It's got all the nice teak and electronics in there. This one was never ran. Does have the VXT tires on it. These were the tires that came with the Origin Limited Black, and now the Pro and Ultra still. That was our first tire that we ever made. But this does have some blue 310 wheels. So those were changed out from the Incision molded beadlocks that these trucks originally came with. Then we had the Ultra. The Ultra, this was a video truck as well, and then a truck that I drove in some of my own videos for a time here and there. A few changes to it compared to out of the box. Again, I've got some Method 101s in gold on there with some Proline Hyrax tires, but had the Origin half cab body. It shared the same molded bumpers and sliders. The body was the same. This one's got another light kit in it, which was a different one that I think I installed at some point way back. The underneath here, the VFD transmission, similar to the Pro, but it has a molded motor plate, molded standoffs. The gears inside the transmission are sintered, so they're not the machined gears that came in the Pro. However, the Ultra version has machined portal axles, and those portal axles each have 2 machined portal gears in it. So it's got 8 machined gears all around, and then of course the more complex portal axles. So for that reason, the Ultra was a little bit more expensive than the Pro. Other difference is that it had 80mm shocks versus 90. 80mm shocks is still a bit of a joke around the office, as we were discussing on how exactly we wanted to keep the ride height similar, and somebody just said, why don't we just put 80 millimeter shocks on it. So a constant joke, 80 millimeter. Are we on your office? Yeah, this is we're in the Vanquish building here on the Vanquish channel, both Facebook and YouTube. So this is going to be a weekly show. Hopefully we come in here, we'll have new products and question and answer. I've told the others in the office here that I'm going to drag them onto video, no matter how much they don't want to do it. I'm excited for that opportunity. As much ridicule as I'll get for all of the live video that I do, I'm not going to let it sit at that, and I will drag them all in here. Also inside of this one, I did have some carbon fiber battery and electronics trays. Those are parts that I made myself and had installed in here as a fun project. That was never something that was offered as like a available part. But even though this VFD had some parts that were downgraded from the Pro had all of the upgrades in it, this transmission is still super stout. Those sintered gears in that are really wide, super reliable. You can put a ton of power. This has got a Tekin 3100 kV Rock 412 and an RX4, and I ran this on 4S for quite a bit. Well, it's the exact same setup that I run in my other VS4-10 Pro, and I always just had great luck with it. I don't know that I've ever had much of a problem with my VFD transmission. But these trucks also had machined drive shafts, so steel drive shafts, the IRC drive shafts that you will have seen and available on, the aftermarket side. They fit a ton of different trucks, and this, having them in here was just another step to making these trucks, which were a premium truck with the machined aluminum axles and the full spec that the Pro or this one got. They were a premium truck and definitely kept them out of the hands of like the just general enthusiast. The Ultra, during the release of that, at that time, I think Matt from SBG, he had the criticism of that he wanted to finally see the body post go away, which if I remember that specifically being like, yeah, it's probably time for that to happen. But the Ultra was the last time you'll see the top mounted body posts on our trucks. From there, that's when we went to the VS4-10 Phoenix Portal. Now, this one here is one of the Falcon editions, which was also our latest release, but this came in a kit version first. And the Falcon edition Portal here, it's a full spec just like the kit was. Now, this was the debut of the molded F10 Portal axles. First plastic molded axle that Vanquish ever released. Few improvements over the aluminum ones is that the pumpkin size was reduced even a little bit further for some more clearance. Steering angle on the Portals was greatly increased as we went to a universal style axle shaft versus the CV style that the Ultra had. The gear sets inside of the knuckles of these Portals is the same, though, that the Portal shared. The new style body was the Phoenix on here, and it's a three-piece body with the cab and then the separate bed sides. And again, like we talked about, no visible body posts on top. The only body posts, or the only body pins, are on the bottom side here of the rear bumper. And if you pulled those out on this, it allowed the body to hinge forward. So, and you can do that to be able to get to the battery and such. But if you wanted to completely remove the body, there's another body pin up in the front. You can remove that and then pull this pin out, or post, as you would say. With that out, then you can lift the whole body right off of the truck. Now, the Phoenix body did come with an interior as well, and in the Falcon edition of the RTR, the bed sides and the interior were both included. Underneath of that, this was the first time you will have seen the VFD twin transmission, a similar transmission to the standard VFD, and it shared a number of the parts, but it also then introduced a new rear transfer case. What about brass front third members? So recently for the F10 axles, we did release aluminum front third member, or front and rear third members. Currently those aren't available in brass. Someone's setting off the alarm. It's always helpful. But the right now only aluminum in those. The Phoenix offered, like again, the VFD twin transmission, which gave us a built-in rear dig. So if you're not familiar with a rear dig or what it is, it's a rear axle disconnect. With adding another servo that mounts right here behind the battery tray, it can allow you to disconnect the drive to the rear axle, and it can then freewheel, or you can go all the way back to the locked position. And with the rear wheels locked, it allows you to turn much sharper, and also it can aid in some climbing. Along with that, also, there was the selectable overdrive. This took it from a standard 6.5% overdrive to 43%, similar to the mechanism that the dig used. You could shift it into place, and it took and adjusted the gear ratio for the front output, and that's how you got the overdrive percentage. No super chat available. The Vanquish YouTube channel is not monetized, so no super chat available currently. You're only missing the cat walking across the table. You know what? If that happens here, we should all be worried. No cat hair in any of your packages at this point. But the VS4-10 Phoenix, the Portal and the Straight in the kit versions continued to offer the VXT tires, the same tires that came on all of the other kits up to this point. But when we went to the RTR, well, I'm skipping a step there, I guess. After the Portal, we released the straight axle version of the VS4-10 Phoenix. And it was exactly like the Portal, other than the fact that it had straight axles instead of the Portal axles, and the shocks are a 90 millimeter shock with a +5 rod end. So it keeps the ride height about the same as it was previously, but with just a little bit of adjustment there. So beyond that, the trucks were the exact same in kit form. No machine. For those that remember, I used to film here myself, but in a different office, and the drone of CNC machines just outside of the door of where I used to film here at Vanquish couldn't be unheard. So unless you were a fan of just that constant drone of CNC machines that I hear just about every day, then that might have been annoying. I can't go back and watch any of my own personal videos from that time. It drives me absolutely just crazy. But this new office that we got, which is just across the street from the previous, much quieter. I do like it. Any chance of re-releasing 2.2 Dirty Harry wheels and slugs? Not hardly. Those have been gone for 8 or so years at this point, maybe more. And those were from a different era of time. I don't think that they belong in the scene quite like they used to. And of course, with the CNC machines that we have to manage the supply of the parts that we can make are in the highest demand versus parts that, of course, we would love to be able to offer every single part we ever made and have plenty of stock. But it's just not necessarily an option, both time and space. But the VS4-10 Phoenix straight axle was the first RTR ever released from Vanquish. And as it came RTR, it didn't have the rear bed sides and it doesn't have the interior. These bed sides have been added after the fact as they are available separately. But beyond the change of removing those two items, the RTR did include the new VS4-10, or did include the Falcon Wild Peak tires. That was the first licensed tire that we ever released, and to be able to put it onto the Phoenix RTR was a nice change. They perform much better. The compound is great. It's a different compound than what we previously used, and it was a great upgrade to this truck and made it super capable. The Phoenix RTRs, they use a 1060 ESC and a 35 turn motor, 200 ounce-inch metal gear, waterproof servo, nothing crazy, pretty standard for a typical RTR. But it did come, or does come currently, with a 4-channel digital radio. So multi-model memory, I think it has 15 models, digital endpoints, and that 3rd and 4th channel, which do come into play if you want to add the selectable overdrive or dig. You don't have to change the radio if you want to add one or both of those options. But two great trucks. And then, of course, the last version was the Falcon edition, which was the first time we've ever used a licensed livery on an RTR. Granted, it was only the second RTR ever offered from Vanquish, but to be able to already get the kind of iconic Falcon livery, a lot of us are a big fan of that livery. And since we were already running the tires, it seemed like something that we were interested in doing, and it seemed like people liked it. The Falcon edition is a limited run though, so that's not going to be a long-term available RTR. So you'll only see those for the time that they're in stock now, and then that will not be available any longer. So let's see. Beyond that, that's kind of the brief history of the RTRs and kits that we've offered. I'm going to have to replace a lot of body pins as I've just taken them all out and put them in a pile over here. And we'll figure that out here in a little bit. How limited? Limited to the supply that we have. As far as an actual number, I don't have that actual number to give you, and they're not individually numbered. So once they're gone, though, they'll be gone. But likely, you're not going to see them for the long term. I would imagine that I'm not going to give my projection of when I think that they'll be gone, but if you want one, you should get one. So with that, we are almost at that 30-minute mark. At that time, we're going to transition to YouTube only for the live stream, and that's all you're going to see. If you want to finish the rest of the live stream, if you're on the Facebook side, you can jump over to YouTube and catch everything there. But if you guys have questions, now's the time to start putting them in there. If you have specific product availability questions, like when will this or will this come back, I won't necessarily be able to help you with all of those questions, and that would be probably a slightly uninteresting live stream for a lot of people. So beyond that, though, we'll try and cover as much as we can. Falcon edition come in straight axle version? Nope, it only comes in the portal, and that's the only way that you'll see this truck or this livery offered on that body. Can I have it? You can have it. You can have it in a small exchange of some currency, but beyond that, I don't know that I can help you, Gino. So you're saying no slash parts either? Come on. I think that there might have been some slash parts still kicking around in a box in the back, but probably not many. And I don't know that we're going to be able to go through that stash of parts. So the Phoenix Falcon edition, those portal axles were they're absolutely great axles. I love these axles for competition, and they steer really well. Lots of options for gearing, both in the portal boxes and the ring and pinion. So if you want to modify, the performance, adding some more overdrive, however you would like. The portals on the F10s, they do come with the overdrive gear set already installed in those portal boxes, which is worth noting. That's a 1.4 to 1 reduction in the box. That's done because it's the stronger of the two available gear sets, because the gears are closest in size. There is also a standard ratio, which is a 1.6 to 1 gear ratio. So if you want to add more overdrive to your truck, you'll actually want to take and put that gear set in the rear. So take the overdrive gear ratio out of that portal and put in the standard ratio, in case you were ever wondering. But what kind of currency? I've got crypto. You know what? I think you can convert that still. Actually, I'm pretty sure, because I've got some of it myself, and I don't know that it's worth anything otherwise. So I can't read all of these. Will the shift linkages be available for the RTR Phoenix? Thanks. So in case you didn't see, or maybe you got it secondhand, the shift linkages are included with both of the RTRs. So the shift linkage is in the spare parts bag for both of them. So if you want to add those parts are in there. Also, some of the other spare parts are like the clamps for the bed sides. Those are also already available in the RTR Phoenix box spare parts. You just have to put those things in. So if you need those separately beyond that, you'll have to email customer service, because I don't know if they'll be added to the website specifically on their own, because it's not something that's normally needed. But you can always send a message to customer service and they'll help you. At this time, again, we're going to transfer to only the YouTube side. If you're on Facebook, you can jump over to YouTube. I appreciate all you guys joining on the Facebook side. And you can subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're interested to see more on that. All right. See if that worked as it's supposed to. Is it 10 o'clock, right? The the 10 o'clock alarm that many have seen and heard at this point. But will the Vanquish follow the trailer trend? Yeah, the trailer trend was something that I didn't necessarily expect to see pop up this week. We had 2 new options coming up. Right now, probably not something, although I'm sure there is, even some people here who would like to see it, but not on the list of projects that we currently have. The Falcon, guessing the Falcon bedside replacements won't be sold separately. Not likely, since they are, included with the body, and the Falcon body isn't available separately either. It's only available on the kit, or the RTR, I should say. So limited in that way, and yeah, only available through there. So Josh, how does it feel to commit to 3 live streams a week? You know what? If the hardest thing I have to do for work is talk in front of a camera, I think I'll be okay. This is work. I'm at work. How bad can it be? VS4-10, my VS4-10 Pro, I got it when it first came out years ago now. I've lost 2 screws. That's it. Nothing broke, still going strong. You know what? My VS4-10 Pro, still one of my go-tos. I absolutely love driving that thing. I've got a ton of power in it. I'll rock crawl it. I'll rock race it. I've bashed it. I've gone through multiple bodies and different styles. Well, not different styles. Always the VS4-10 Pro body, but with multiple different paint job styles at this point. So I really, really enjoy that truck myself as well. So something I've definitely liked to have over the years. Let's see. Our 10.2 Rock Jock's going to be released again. Those are constantly released. Those are still in production. They have been, but they do sell quickly. So those have not gone out of production, and they still hit the website pretty regularly. So you just have to watch for those. As long as, I've had, I guess currently my VS4-10 Pro is kind of orange. It's a pretty patinaed orange, but it is orange. Can SBG make a bumper sticker that says "Stream Life"? How many bodies were painted by Moose? Moose Jaw's actually had to paint every single. No, he hasn't. We do have a couple of bodies here that I think Moose Jaw painted, and he hasn't painted any for my Pro. My Pro is still running one that I've had for quite some time. I think before Joe ever even. I don't even know if I knew Joe at the time when I had that body done. Any tube style kits in the plans for the future? I mean, currently that's not something that we've got. Obviously, the tube style stuff is something that I personally really like. As you may know, we do of course just have at this point some tube style stuff in the bed, but also no matter what the question is, if it's like, is this coming or not, it's not something we'll be able to say. If it's not a regular product release, not something that's probably going to slip out in a live stream either. So just an FYI, I'm pretty good at being able to keep those things separate. So unless you've seen a regular product release, then you're probably not going to see it unless it's like a special announcement on one of these videos, which could happen in the future. Let's see. Place. Sorry, some of this is a little bit more difficult to read. We'll get there. So that's not an. I mean, there's never a no. There's no no's. There's some no's. Yeah. The Ripper 2. It's a hard no. If you heard it, the first and last release of the kits again on the bench there. Of course, the tube style like the Ripper had was one that I really enjoyed. The Ripper cage is a piece in its own, just a style and type that really hadn't been done at the time and probably hasn't been done or done as well anywhere close since. So it still has its own place like that and something that is still really fun to look at. And I do drive my own personal one. It's the move towards RTRs is a thing that, of course, is just a type of, the market is an RTR market. A lot of people just want to pull a truck out of the box and run it. Not everybody is into hunting down their own electronics, choosing this and that. So the RTR stuff is something that, you'll continue to see. RTRs are, I mean, personally myself, I even like RTRs because, time can be tough. Having to, I have to have somebody else paint the bodies. So there's that as well. And just, I have an appreciation myself, even as much of a hobby fan as I am, I can appreciate an RTR. What's my favorite axles that Vanquish offers? The D44 is still one of my all-time favorite axles. I really enjoy the look of the D44. The D44 has got a traditional style like Dana diff cover to it. These were a licensed Curry axle still. And so, although this particular one that's on this truck doesn't have the lasering, I guess, but most of them, or all of the rest that are for sale, do. RTRs make Josh grind. I like RTRs myself. That's not just a, exaggeration for the sake of video. It is something I actually do enjoy. We need class 3 2.2 VXT2s about 5 1/4 inches tall. I do like the trend of the shorter 2.2 tires as well. Something that we of course do watch, what's being used. We're hobby enthusiasts here ourselves, not just me, but the people I work with. So we watch things, we run things ourselves, all of those. That's what, hopefully tries to keep us along that leading edge of the products that are available, because we ourselves are using them regularly still. That's a lot of people that are in the hobby or working in the hobby. They are that way or started that way. And depending on how long they've been there, sometimes things change, life changes. And to some people it can become a job. To us, luckily at this point, it's still fun. So here, of course, it's not just about the design and selling, but since we're also manufacturing here in-house, there's a whole nother side of things that goes alongside with that. So they send it with a 6-inch tire. Oh, the range of tire size options these days is something that we're lucky to have now. Is this side of the market, the scale side, trail truck side, didn't have nearly the choices that we have now. We used to have basically one decent option of truck available in the market, not even that long ago. And now, you have all kinds of options. You have some of the best options here. We've shown. See, I can say that now. I can fully just embrace that side of it. Yes, hit the like button. So the Vanquish YouTube channel is something that used to be utilized a lot more, and it hasn't been in quite some time, but something that we're going to try and push more, both live stream stuff and also just straight informational kind of how-to things that you'll see here, over time. Just stuff that will help customers and customer service, and maybe a little bit more information that you didn't catch on Scale News, or maybe you could use some clarification over how things are normally interpreted in instructions. So try and use that more and more as a tool to help customers and both put out more information. I like the F10T Toyota looking axles, would be nice. If there was a Portal version, though, yeah, I mean, you don't see as many, Portal Toyota style axles. You do like a fabricated style axle, so it's just not something that was initially done that way. But there's always a ton of different ways that you could try and put things. What? Will RTR servo horns be available separately? I believe that those are already available on the site. The RTR servo horn is a sintered metal servo horn, 20 millimeters long, and for a 25 tooth servo spline. Are those servos live? Yeah, those are live. So you can actually get those now, and they're super affordable. So if you wanted to pick up just an inexpensive, non-clamping powder metal servo horn, those are a good choice. They've worked well in the RTRs. Do you guys plan on making another aluminum axle kit like the Pro Ultra now that they're discontinued? Again, like I mentioned, even if it was coming out tomorrow, not something that you're going to see. Unless it's a normal product announcement, you're not going to see it. But yes, the Pro and Ultra are going away, limited to basically the stock that's available at this point, and you're not going to see a new one tomorrow. So at this point, we don't have anything like that in the plans. Any Dark Earth portal covers or third members? Dark Earth stuff, so those were available through the Trucks of Freedom and Trucks of Fortune, I believe, is the only time. The Trucks of Fortune had some of the wheels, and then the axles came in Trucks of Freedom, which was a promotion that we did over the late June, early July time. But no, none of the additional parts will be available for those. Those were parts only available in that promotion, not something that will be done or added to the website on their own in the future. It's an interesting color to do. It's an interesting color to try and match as well. So not something you're going to see any of that other stuff pop up on the website for. If you got it in the promotion, it was just one of those things that was fun to add out there, give to people, but what you got is all you're going to see on that. Can you switch the Phoenix axles to rock jocks? The rock jocks are not an offset center section, so you can't swap that front axle because of that. The VFD transmission requires you to run an offset front axle, so not something that you could do. You could swap the rear axle and it would work just fine, but not the front. You mean there isn't a new product announcement on the stream? There is. The only thing, let's see, try. I can't even find it. There was a thing where I could show items that were new, and I set that up, but I didn't see how to do it. This week, we did release the lightweight machine gears for the VFD transmission, the standard VFD. So if you wanted to take and use that VFD in something like a comp truck, you can add those two gear sets. The front gear set replaces the upper and lower gear in the front section of the transmission, not the spur and pinion, but the next one. And then the transfer case gear set replaces all of those gears as well and gives you a 21% overdrive. So if you've got factory sintered gears from like the Ultra or the transmission kit, you throw all those in there, you'll cut a bunch of weight out, about 2 ounces, and gain 21% overdrive. It comes with the aluminum bearing retainers as well. So a nice little setup there. I've been running them in some of my comp trucks for, I don't know, the better part of a year. It's what was in my Porsche and my C2, as well as I think my comp trucks last year. Why no purple wheels or Monster Energy green? You can only have so many wheel combos. It makes for a lot of parts to have. Monster Energy green was actually a super difficult color to try and keep consistent, even within a batch. So it was something that was just like, nope, not going to be available anymore. Not something that's going to come back at any time in the future, as of now, at least. And purple, again, that's just something we do for, those promotions and for fun, special things every once in a while, but also not something that you're going to see hitting the website. Can you switch a regular VFD to a VFD twin? Yes. The easiest way is really just to get one of the new transmission kits and do a swap. It's compatible with all of the layout of the axles and the drive shafts all of that. But you are going to want just to pick up that whole transmission kit because it's got all the gears, the plastics that are different. The skid plate is also different. Another thing is that if you've got a Pro or something like that and you want to put a VFD twin in it, you'll also need the molded battery tray and servo mounting positions, like specifically for the selectable overdrive side. So there's a little bit that goes to it. That VFD twin is a little bit more involved of a swap over. How about an out of focus close-up teaser of something abstract coming soon? You'll have to watch our Instagram for that later, I guess. We'll have to go take photos for that specifically. Need a Vanquish scaled drive, VP scaled driver, acronym SLW. I don't even know what that would mean. And scale drivers, you're still on the wrong channel for that. So we have a VFD twin laying around and a Pro I haven't put together yet. Yeah, you can do that swap, but again, you will need those molded components for like the shift servo mount specifically on the overdrive side. The dig side is the same position as you found in the Pro or Ultra, but that overdrive side is not something that was available. Is Janine and James still? Yeah, Jim is still here. James, he is Ripper Machinist, so he is he's one of the founders. So therefore, yes, still here. But Janae is I think who you mean, Jeff. But no, she's not been here in like 8 or 9 years, something like that. Can we get scale drivers of Josh? It's going to have to be a little bit larger than it used to be. Yeah, you're on the wrong channel. What is next? The VS4-10 is long in the tooth. So if you look at the product cycle of it, the VS4-10, the frame rails came out in 2017. But beyond that, then it was changed in 2019 to update to a new transmission style, all of that. So you're only looking at 3 or 4 years old, something that is not old for this hobby and something that at this point is still pretty up to date as far as, it's got great suspension travel. Axle styles have been updated over time, improving things like steering, clearances underneath, suspension geometry. All those things have been, little things here and there. But pretty big differences from the original that had like the 3-gear, things like that. The only thing that's the same is the profile of the rails. But looking over time, even chassis that have been released even more recently are basically of a similar design to how the VS4-10 came out. So not much different there. And until, we see something that we need to change, then I probably see it elsewhere also. Are in-person tours of VP a thing? They are not a thing. Not except for special occasions or special circumstances, but it is a closed facility, being that it's a machine shop. You can't have people just walking in and around the building. So there is no in-person sales. There is no in-person tours that are just readily available. Let me see here. So the 10.2 chassis kit upgrade may be phased out at some point. I mean, that's just the VS4-10 chassis kit, really. You can just use it on other trucks as an easily swappable thing. I've swapped a number of trucks with that same chassis kit in the past. I think I've done SCX-10-2, an Element, TRX-4 stuff. All kinds of different ways that you can use the chassis. Keep things pretty universal, especially if you're using a 3-gear transmission. It's not too picky. I, of course, used SCX-3 axles under it, Capra axles under it. It's all possible with the chassis kit. It's just depending on how you set it up. what's the reason for discontinuing the Pro and Ultra? The Pro and Ultra are the, you know, the oldest of the currently available kits, and you know, there's things about it that probably need to be a little bit more updated to the times. Of course, things like the body post showing through the roof. Granted, this is the Origin Limited, but the same configuration, even though it was a half cab. Also had things like the Lexan inner fenders versus the molded inner fenders that you'll find on the Phoenix, which offered some improvements there as well. The Pro and Ultra also have the original Incision scale shocks versus the S8Es that come on the Phoenix at this point, which makes things nice and a little bit better, a little more damping on those. So, you know, there's just things that could be updated, and it's been around for quite a while. No matter what those updates are, you know, being that we machine axles in-house, whenever we decide to do another option for that, there's leaves a lot of room for changes that we could make fairly easily. We've got about a little less than 10 minutes left on the stream. We're going to do about an hour on these each week, just to keep in contact. I'm sure that there'll be plenty of questions that we can answer on these streams, and hopefully get you guys kept up with what's happening. Let's see if they ever come back in stock before October. They can. Oh, the Capra stuff. Capra axles, you will see those pop back up before too long, probably, but those not a whole lot of news beyond, or releases on those beyond that. Rear F10 portal covers in aluminum. Currently, yeah, those are right now only available in brass on those. I don't have a release of any of aluminum ones currently or at this time, and no new products on those have been announced specifically. Not sure if that's something that we'll see released separately or not. How can I get a set of flat earth impacts? Not available for purchase. Those were only available during the promotion, and I think the impacts, there was only maybe less than 10 sets that went out during that. The ones that got finished, the impacts in that flat earth, or dark earth is what we officially called it. I think the color that the anodizer actually calls it is flat earth, but we had renamed it slightly for our own sanity. Those came in late at the very end of that promotion, and the packages that were being made, there wasn't many that got those slid in. So until I figure out another type of special to include them with, I don't think that you're going to see them available anytime soon. I'll be your best friend. Get rid of Matt. Let's see. Did I hear Ultra Pros have been discontinued? I switched from live to recap. Yes, the Ultras and Pros. There is some stock still available, but not much. I believe there's still some Ultras left. Michael, can you confirm?
Yes.
There's still some left. Still some. Any possibility of some aluminum knuckles for the straight axle F10? The straight axle F10, you can use the SCX-10-2 ones. I know that on the passenger side, that can touch that panhard mount just a little bit on the plastic versions versus like the aluminum ones where they clear completely. At this point, I don't have a F10 specific knuckle that's been released, but we'll see. Confirmed, plausible, busted. I mean, there can always be more parts available for our own trucks. It's things that we will continue to work on and release, but we got 5 minutes left. Whatever. Let's see. I've got two. There we go. I still have that one up. I don't normally use this type of broadcaster, so something that I'm still getting used to on here. I reckon a Dremel could, yeah, you do that. I mean, even a tiny bit of X-Acto, whatever it takes, but it's a pretty easy modification on there. Or of course, you can always go to the straight axles that are offered in aluminum for ultimate strength. But SSD also makes brass knuckles too for the F10 straight axle. Yep, there are other companies that are making aftermarket parts for our trucks, which is cool to see. And, you know, we are of course a smaller brand. There's not, we're here in Northern California, not just a group that we've continued to release more and more trucks, more and more options. And now, the mainstream style RTRs that are fully supported with our own parts and now with other people as well, kind of brings things into a perspective. Are you hosting this live from the new Vanquish conference room or the espresso machine? Yes, I am. The espresso machine is just outside the door. It's needed for live streams, even though I had a Red Bull instead before this. But we pretty much at the end for this one. We'll work out things like audio and all of those differences. Yes, it's different than my normal studio. So some things that I still have to get maybe a little bit more treated, but we'll get there. If you guys have any last questions, let's get those in. A minute or so left, and then we'll turn this one off. But mullet C1 build or just portals all the way around? For C1 builds that I've done myself, I have ran the portals all the way around. In C1 especially, I do like the extra clearance, since class 1 or C1 means that you're running a smaller tire, 4.19 inch. It is nice to have a little bit of extra clearance. Portals are a little bit wider than the regular straight axles. I think it's about 9 millimeters total. You can get the low offset brass covers in case you want to keep your wheels sucked in as far as possible. Medium hats. I think we do have more hats in the works. Maybe we have mediums. All I think I've checked on is like the double XL that I wear. Hertz Dig, what servo do you recommend? For the Hertz Dig, whether it be on the VFD or the 3 gear, anything with that 150 to 200 ounce inches will do the job. If you want to put more on it, great. I like a servo with some good speed to it, just because it's super snappy with the shifting then, which is something that I prefer. But what would you like to see happen in the crawler trail truck world in general? That's a hard question. It's a super hard question. I'm getting back into the hobby and just seeing the price of the Phoenix. That's awesome. Yeah, it's come a long way from the original origin here. When this truck came out, it was $899, which was half the price that the Ripper came out at, which it was incomplete, didn't have axles or a chassis, even a transmission. It was just the body really and some links, light bars. So this one came out at $899, and now the Phoenix kits are in the 300s. Of course, you can get the RTRs in the starting in the 400s, so not bad. Black double XL comp stance hats. Yes, those I know will be here before too long. But with that, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for joining our first episode of the live stream here. If you guys enjoyed it, hit like button, subscribe to the Vanquish channel. You'll continue to see more stuff here every week, as well as edited videos that'll come in the future also. So check that out.